Good evening. My name is Bruce Winters. I live at 20 Dunning Avenue in the village. My background is I'm a pharmacist. I was a commissioned officer in the U.S. Public Health Service. I spent 2 years with the FDA. I moved to Rochester in the late 60s to work at the University of Rochester Medical Center. And then after that, I spent the rest of my time employed by Rochester Medical Group and Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield. I've spoken before on the marijuana issue. I'll save you all some boring time. This is basically some of the stuff that I've spoken to before, but I've added to it if you want to share that with people.
Thank you.
So I'll try to do this in a reasonable period of time. I'm 83 years old, so obviously I have typical memory, short memory impairment. So I have to put things in writing. First of all, did any of you listen last week to Evan Dawson's Connections? I believe it was on Wednesday. Evan had the gentleman, you know why I'm up here, the marijuana thing. Evan had a couple of people on his program last Wednesday, including, I tuned into it just after it had started, so I didn't catch the names, but somebody from the administration in Henrietta. I don't know if he was a supervisor or a mayor or whatever they have out there, but he was from Henrietta. And then there was another gentleman who finances retail cannabis associations and built businesses, including a lot of them in Buffalo. So he spoke about Buffalo too. And I'm sure the folks on the board, I was here last week, I actually missed, it wasn't until I tuned into the recording later that he puts on that I saw that he mentioned Henrietta and their $1 million income. And I'm sure that got you all excited. But in this thing they pointed out, just as a matter of information, you can get this, it's a podcast, you can go and listen to it. But basically they pointed out that they don't have a lot of competition right now because a lot of the area communities have opted out. So they're drawing from their bulk of a lot of their business coming from Greece, Gates, all that area out there. Plus they've always had a big draw from the southern tier. They're also drawing people from Webster and other places that don't have. In Buffalo, where the opposite has happened, almost everything is opted in there. There are major problems now there are too many. People are going out of business, they're not doing well, it's a mess over there now. Let's see what else is here. In Buffalo, the stores are struggling because now the market is oversaturated with retail stores. The Henrietta town official is actually hoping that we won't opt in. He likes the business, I guess. If you read, also, I don't know if any of you read this was just on April 30th. Did any of you read the article on the front page of the Democrat and Chronicle about ER visits? This was on the D&C. You all knew about Henrietta though, didn't you? Well, anyway, in this, if you read this article, cannabis-related emergency room visits in New York rose nearly 57% in the initial 2 years after the state legalized adult use recreational marijuana in 2021. So there's a cost associated with this. So hospital costs, our health insurance costs. It's not for free that this is happening. I've given a number of articles over the past year or two since this started up with the discussion. I believe it was just last year. I've given a number of articles to the mayor. I gave an article to Trustee Lancy a while ago. I'm concerned, of course, from the point of view of mainly from the medical aspect of it. I also suggest that you check out the perspectives positions from the American Medical Association, the Academy of Pediatrics, and any of those groups. I think you need to look at the varying perspectives and not just how much revenue it will generate for Webster. If you read about the detrimental health effects, you can't, in good judgment, want to get in bed with this recreational cannabis quagmire. Supporting this debacle is ignoring medical, ethical, and moral implications simply for tax revenue. By the way, there's an old saying about that's sometimes misquoted. It's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And that's what this is about when you want to have, but when you're bringing something in strictly because it's going to give you money. Most area towns and villages made the right ethical decision last year and opted out of the retail cannabis dispensaries. This resulted in only a few communities selling pot, with one being Henrietta. Henrietta is a large town that has a plethora of commercial areas and thus is in an enviable tax situation. When I moved to the Rochester area in the late 60s to work at the U of R, I talked with people about places to buy a home, and one of the places they told me not to was Henrietta. Sorry, but that was what I was told. They said, don't look in Henrietta. They recommended Pittsford, Brighton, Webster, places like that. Now that the word is out about all the money they are making selling pot, Webster and other communities are going to be obviously a bit jealous. My comment on that is Henrietta is not a place to be jealous of, so don't emulate them unless that's what you want the town of Webster to become. The state has created a gambling empire accompanied by getting into the pot selling business, while openly acknowledging in the legislation that there are addiction perils. They put money aside to deal with that. They've essentially taken over the activities previously considered illegal when previously undertaken by the mafia. This is essentially what New York State has gotten into. It's gotten into the line of business that used to be the exclusivity of the mafia. Think about that. The bottom line is the state has embarked on a mission to addict the public to these vices in order to feed their addiction to tax and spending. So what is my overriding concern? Ask yourself what any of these sources of revenue do to enhance the moral fiber of our citizenry. And what is the socially redeeming value of these state-sanctioned endeavors? In addition, most workers, well, you can read that, it's in your thing. I just believe that the state should be ashamed of itself for promoting these negative lifestyle behaviors. They should be playing a role similar to that of a protective big brother to its residents, not an enabler of bad behavior. The state needs to get its priorities in order. Now, I just have a couple of other things I want to comment on here. I have some little photos that I took for myself. They're all in public. They're from either the Wall Street Journal, which I subscribe to, along with the Democrat and Chronicle. I'll just give you some headlines. This one is from the Wall Street Journal. Title is Potent Form of Cannabis Ravages Teens. And by the way, I hope you folks understand, the marijuana that's being sold today and produced today is not the marijuana your uncle was smoking at Woodstock. This stuff is much more potent. And it says here, health officials warn of heated extracts that are ruining lives and gaining popularity. So people are taking this stuff and playing games with it so that they can get a higher high out of it. Marijuana can lead to drowsiness, which causes the risk of falls. Labs clear pot for sale despite, this is out of the Wall Street Journal. Labs clear pot for sale despite a contaminant. So these things are being approved for use, but they're not even seem to be concerned about the contaminants that are in there. And forget whether they're toxic contaminants or not. But one of the bad things we know about smoking in general, cigarettes, is the particulate matter that we inhale into our lungs. That causes problems. And marijuana is no different. It's more particulate matter. Researchers study effect of pot use on pregnancy. This is in the Democrat and Chronicle last November. Children of mothers who ingested cannabis while pregnant are at a higher risk for problematic behaviors. Nationwide children's hospital researchers found, and it goes on and talks about some of them. Here's some risks associated. Impaired judgment, attention span and coordination, raising the risk of car accidents, falls, injuries, long-term effects, can also lead to significant mental health issues and addiction. And the THC can cause some people to experience short-term psychosis, anxiety, and elevated heart rate. That was just May 7th, a couple days ago. There's also another one here, real quickly. It says, the rise and fall of Napa Valley of cannabis. This is in Colorado. Pueblo, Colorado had high hopes for legal marijuana boom, but is facing fallout from an industry and collapse. So the bottom line is, yes, a few places make some good money off this, but the rest of the story is pretty sad. And I just think that we shouldn't have any part of that. It's bad business. Going to give you some revenue, but it's bad business, and I don't know, I just think that Webster's, I hope, a step above what so many other communities have done, which is, I believe, a serious mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.